What happens when two of the most admired stars in Korean entertainment step away from the spotlight and into the most life-changing role they have ever faced? The answer has captured the attention of fans across the world after news emerged that Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo are celebrating the arrival of their newborn baby. For audiences who have followed their careers for years, the moment feels almost cinematic. Two actors whose performances shaped unforgettable television dramas are now beginning a story far more meaningful than anything written in a script. A story of family, a story of new beginnings, and a story that begins with the quiet arrival of a child. The birth itself unfolded away from cameras and public attention. Inside a carefully protected hospital environment, surrounded by trusted medical staff and a small circle of family members, Song Hye-kyo welcomed the baby after months of anticipation. Those close to the couple described the moment as emotional yet peaceful. Birth carries a natural tension. Hours of waiting. Moments of uncertainty. But when the newborn finally arrived, that tension dissolved into relief and overwhelming joy. Doctors confirmed that both mother and baby were healthy. And within minutes, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. The anxiety of waiting had given way to celebration. Not loud celebration. Not the dramatic kind often imagined in movies. But something quieter and deeper. The kind of joy that fills a room when everyone present realizes they are witnessing the beginning of a new life. For Lee Min-ho, the experience reportedly brought a level of emotion rarely seen from the actor in public. Known for his calm demeanor and composed personality, he spent much of the early moments simply observing the scene in front of him. The newborn wrapped carefully in a blanket. Song Hye-kyo resting after the long process of childbirth. The soft sounds of hospital equipment in the background. According to those present, he appeared both amazed and deeply moved. At one point, he leaned closer to look at the baby's face, studying every detail with the kind of attention that only new parents understand. The tiny movements, the quiet breathing, the delicate features that seemed almost unreal in their fragility. Meanwhile, Song Hye-kyo held the baby gently, her expression reflecting both exhaustion and happiness. For years, audiences around the world have admired her ability to portray emotional depth on screen. Her characters often carried warmth, vulnerability, and strength. But in this moment, none of that was performance. It was real life. She reportedly spoke softly to the baby, her voice calm as she welcomed the child into the world. The moment marked a turning point not just in their personal lives, but in the public narrative surrounding both stars. For decades, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo have been icons of Korean drama. Their careers span numerous productions that reached audiences far beyond their home country. Fans watched them portray unforgettable characters, heroes, lovers, individuals navigating complicated emotional journeys. But the arrival of their baby introduces a new identity that exists outside the world of acting. Parenthood. And with that identity comes a completely different set of experiences. Late nights. Quiet mornings. The slow discovery of a child's personality as he grows. For fans, the news has been met with an outpouring of emotional responses. Across social media platforms, messages of congratulations continue to appear. Some fans express amazement at how the actors they once admired from television screens are now entering a stage of life that feels universally relatable. Others reflect on the idea that the couple's journey has evolved from professional success to personal fulfillment. Industry colleagues have also shared supportive reactions. Many actors and directors who worked alongside Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo over the years have described the couple as deeply dedicated individuals. People who approach their careers with seriousness and respect for their craft. Now, those same qualities may shape how they approach raising their child. Because parenthood, much like acting, requires patience, adaptability, and emotional awareness. Inside the hospital, the first hours with the baby were reportedly filled with small but unforgettable moments. The baby stretching his tiny fingers. The soft cry that signals the beginning of communication between parent and child. The quiet laughter that sometimes escapes new parents when they realize how quickly life has changed. At one point, Lee Min-ho was given the opportunity to hold the baby in his arms. Witnesses say he approached the moment carefully, almost cautiously. Not out of fear, but out of the respect that comes with holding such a fragile life. When the baby finally rested securely against him, the actor reportedly smiled in a way that felt completely natural and unguarded. It was not the confident smile audiences know from his public appearances. It was softer, more reflective, a smile shaped by the realization that the most important role of his life had just begun. Song Hye-kyo watched the moment quietly, clearly moved by the scene unfolding beside her. For years, both actors had lived under constant public attention. Every project they joined, every public appearance, every rumor about their personal lives. But the arrival of their baby changed the focus entirely. Now, the center of their world is not a film set or a television production. It is a child whose future stretches far beyond the boundaries of celebrity. The coming months will likely bring new adjustments, balancing professional commitments with family life, protecting their child's privacy while continuing to work in a highly visible industry. But for now, the focus remains on the simple joy of welcoming a new member into their family. Because sometimes the most meaningful celebrations are not held on red carpets or award stages. They happen quietly, in hospital rooms, in soft conversations between parents, in the gentle moment when a newborn opens his eyes for the first time. For Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo, that moment marks the beginning of a story far more important than any drama they have ever performed. A story written not by screenwriters, but by the everyday experiences of raising a child. And as they celebrate the arrival of their baby, millions of fans around the world are quietly celebrating with them. And as the first day with their newborn slowly unfolded, the celebration between Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo began to take on a deeper meaning than anyone outside that quiet hospital room could fully understand. Because celebrations after the birth of a child are rarely loud. They are not marked by grand speeches or flashing cameras. Instead, they happen in small, almost invisible moments that parents remember forever. Moments like the first time both parents lean over the cradle together. Moments when a newborn stirs gently in his sleep. Moments when the realization settles in that life will never again be exactly the same. Inside the softly lit room, the baby rested peacefully after the long journey into the world. His breathing had become calm and steady, the fragile rhythm of a life only hours old. Lee Min-ho reportedly remained close, standing beside the cradle longer than anyone expected. Not speaking much, simply watching. Witnesses described how he occasionally leaned closer, studying the baby's face as if trying to memorize every detail. The curve of the tiny fingers, the soft rise and fall of the blanket with each breath. For a man who spent years portraying confident and composed characters on screen, the moment revealed something entirely different. A quiet sense of responsibility. A father beginning to understand the weight and beauty of the role that now belonged to him. Meanwhile, Song Hye-kyo rested against the hospital pillows, still recovering from the exhaustion of childbirth. Yet even through the fatigue, there was a peaceful glow in her expression. Those who were present say she kept glancing toward the cradle every few minutes, as if reassuring herself that the baby was truly there, that the moment was real. For years, audiences admired her ability to portray emotional strength through her performances. Her characters often carried resilience through heartbreak, joy through uncertainty, and warmth through complicated stories. But now she was stepping into a role far more profound than any written character. Motherhood. And the way she watched over her newborn son suggested that the transition had already begun naturally. At one point during the quiet celebration, Lee Min-ho gently pulled a chair closer to the bed. He sat beside Song Hye-kyo, both of them now facing the cradle where their son slept. For a while, neither spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that exists when two people are sharing a moment too meaningful to interrupt with unnecessary words. Outside the hospital, however, the story was spreading quickly. Fans across the world had already begun sharing their excitement about the arrival of the baby. Messages poured in from different countries. Some from viewers who had followed the actors' careers for more than a decade. Others from younger fans who discovered their work through more recent dramas and films. What united them all was a sense of emotional connection. Because for many people, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo were not just celebrities. They were part of the stories that shaped personal memories. Their dramas have been watched during late nights, quiet weekends, and moments when audiences sought comfort through storytelling. Now, hearing about the birth of their child felt almost like watching the continuation of a narrative that fans had followed for years. Entertainment insiders noted that moments like this often redefine how the public sees well-known figures. Actors who once seemed distant suddenly appear relatable when they step into the same life experiences shared by millions of people around the world. Parenthood has that effect. It reminds audiences that behind every public image is a person experiencing the same emotions that shape ordinary lives.
Joy, fear,
Responsibility.
hope.
Back inside the hospital room, the quiet celebration continued in its own gentle rhythm. A nurse briefly entered to check on the baby and ensure that everything remained stable. After offering reassurance that both mother and child were doing well, she quietly stepped out again, leaving the new family alone. Lee Min-ho eventually stood and approached the cradle once more. Carefully, he placed his hand near the baby's blanket, almost instinctively protecting him from the cooler air of the room. It was a small gesture, but it carried the kind of instinct that often surprises new parents. The realization that every movement, every tiny sound, suddenly matters. Song Hye-kyo watched the scene quietly, her expression reflecting both tenderness and quiet pride. For years, their lives had been defined by schedules, scripts, and the expectations of an industry built around performance. But in this moment, none of those things mattered. There were no cameras, no directors calling for another take. Just a newborn child and two parents discovering the beginning of a completely new chapter. For Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo, the celebration of their baby's arrival was not measured in applause or public announcements. It was measured in something much simpler. A shared glance across the room, a quiet smile, the peaceful sight of their son sleeping safely beside them. And in that small hospital room, far from the noise of the world, the two stars who once lived under constant public attention were experiencing something beautifully ordinary. The first night of their new life as a family. A moment that will likely remain one of the most treasured memories of their lives. Because long after the headlines fade and the public excitement settles, the true meaning of that day will remain the same. It was the day when Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo celebrated not a career milestone, not a new drama, but the arrival of the child who has already changed their world forever.